Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Mcintire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for the common sense approach that we need to planning for our financial investment retirement future. He is president and founder of Mcintire Retirement Services. Chris Mcintire here with us once again. And Chris, we always appreciate the time.
It's my pleasure to be with you. I hope everybody's doing good this weekend.
Well, we are here, Chris, and we do appreciate you being the resource for Northwestern Ohio savers, investors, those taking their planning and their financial future seriously. And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you before we get going that if you've got questions, if you would like to get your game plan for retirement put together, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, when we think about planning for retirement, it's kind of the tale of two extreme risks here. And we've got to kind of walk the tightrope in between and try to protect ourselves from each of them. One of them is going too soon, not being able to enjoy our time in retirement, passing away early, and possibly having that impact our loved ones. And then the other one is living too long, not having the finances to continue to support our lifestyle, which would certainly impact our own situation. So I know that planning helps us to balance the two and kind of keep it between the ditches there. How is that going to be benefited through proper planning? How are we going to address those risks and the worries that retirees rightfully so face because of those risks?
Sure, Peter. And, not to sound like an insurance salesman here, but we're talking about two different risks. So, one is dying too soon. Okay. The other one is living too long. So, if you start off with those two basic risks that people have, then there's a lot of different subcategories, right? We can offset the dying too soon very easily with some competitively priced, term insurance or, some whole life, some sort. That one's pretty easy. Most people are familiar with that. They've had it. And sometimes as you get older, your need for that type of insurance gets offset because you've created other assets to take away the risk of dying too soon. Might not eliminate it totally, but that's kind of the train of thought here. Again, from the 30,000 foot level is, I've got a big 401k, I've got Social Security, I have a pension, all the debts are paid off. Do I really need to insure my life? And certainly make that argument. Living too long, however, is, kind of one that, none of us really know how long we're going to be alive when we retire. And if if we use that 65 number here, right, most people work until 65. They jump on Medicare, they can afford their health insurance at least, and then, pull money out of their 401ks, IRAs, also get on some Social Security, and maybe they have a pension, and then they go from the phase of, of being an investor to being a divestor in one sense, right? Because, hey, my income I was getting from my job is now going to be relied off of this big pile of money that I have saved up and complement it with Social Security. So, as we work our way through the show here, we can talk about some of those strategies when it comes to income planning or income insurance, if you will.
Well, Chris, that first part of it, the life insurance, the traditional approach to how do I protect my loved ones and my family if I am to pass away prematurely, I think that's probably a vital component and piece of almost everybody's financial plan at a certain point in our life cycle. However, I hear a lot of people. And in fact, you had a report. I'm remembering that you talked about the 7 biggest financial myths. And one of them on that list was that I will no longer need life insurance once I retire. I think due to all of those factors that you just mentioned, it could be very easy for us to convince ourselves that life insurance is not a valuable component of the financial plan once we retire. But for many, it probably still is. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And, for myself personally, it's a very key component of our retirement planning because life insurance policies have very friendly tax features that can allow you to create an income stream that can be tax free. You're not subject to the contribution limits. You don't have to be 59 and a half. Some of them, those newer policies, kind of call them a hybrid policy, have the ability to grow with the stock market indexes and protect you from losses. You can also use the death benefit for long-term care needs. So, to make a generic statement of buy term and invest the difference, it doesn't really make that, isn't doing the due diligence out there. It's just a popular cliche, if you will. And, as we utilize it in our practice in a number of different methods from, do we need to protect a spouse? Do we need to have something for long-term care needs? So you're not writing an $8,000 or $9,000 a month check to a long-term care facility, or do you need to structure a tax-free income?
So that the buy term and invest the rest theory or process, though, could be useful and appropriate in many situations, but it's not universally applicable as the best approach for life insurance, in other words.
Yep, you're right. With 100 million adults in the United States, kind of probably above that age of 40, if you will. It's hard to say that here's the rule that works for all
Right,
of you.
right,
Yep.
yeah.
That's a fair statement, buddy.
But I think that most people are probably aware that for that risk, there is insurance and ways that we can protect against it. And buying term is obviously probably the cheapest way to address the greatest amount of protection if we are to pass away prematurely. But those other forms of insurance do have some additional benefits, as you mentioned, can be used for retirement income, can have tax benefits, can be used for long-term care. So a lot of benefits to consider there. However, Chris, I'm not sure that nearly as many people are aware that you can actually insure against the other end of that risk spectrum in living too long and making sure that you still have an income that you can depend on.
Correct, Peter. And that's one of the biggest concerns that everybody has is, God, what happens if I run out of money? Well, we do a lot of income allocation type portfolios here. Our friend David Gaylor wrote the book Income Allocation. We have handed out hundreds of those copies to listeners and people that come to some of our educational events, and that is carving off a piece of the portfolio to get yourself a guaranteed income stream. And in some cases, you can have that income stream that can increase over time to help you combat inflation. And you can take pressure off of your investment portfolio because, as we know, the stock market doesn't always deliver the results that we desire, that we want, that we hope for, if you will, and we always want to hedge against that hope and a prayer type mentality out there. And it's like, look, let's get some contractual guarantees here with some of the biggest financial firms on the face of the planet that have been through a couple of world wars, a couple of recessions, a couple of depressions, and, have a global footprint here and, and hedge some risk. That makes sense.
Yeah, they've been through good times, bad times, and everything in between, and are still standing strong and are financially stable. And that's why they are able to back the insurance against these possible risks that we all will face into and throughout retirement. And again, Chris, touching on a couple things that I remember from your 7 financial myths is counting and relying on the market to always go up. That's what a lot of people's plans, air quotes there for those just listening on the radio, seem to be based on. This hope, this projection that assumes that markets will always have a steady increased rate of of appreciation and growth. And then the other financial myth that was tied into that is that we can always rely on what we've heard about, this average 10% rate of return, to be that steady growth over time. Neither of those are reliable or dependable. And Chris, that's why we do need to consider how to structure that more secure income regardless of market conditions. And that's what that book that you mentioned, Income Allocation, is really based on. And many of the retirees or soon to be retirees across Northwestern Ohio have gotten a better handle on how to address these risks by reading that book.
No question about it, Peter. And, as you work your way through retirement, we try to help people change that mindset that, look, you're used to the market going up or having some good solid years right before your retirement. That's not always the case. And, we could talk about the lost decade, the first decade of the 21st century, if you will, from 2000 to 2010, basically. We had a very steep recession. We had the financial crisis there in 2008. And look where the NASDAQ was in that time frame. And, most of the people that were listening today were like, well, man, I made good money in those time periods. It's like, yeah, because you were putting money into the marketplace by
Right.
the tens of thousands. Imagine if you were taking money out of that in the tens of thousands, it would have had the opposite effect, obviously. So, being conditioned mentally to, understand, look, what do I do if the market goes down? What's my alternative strategy? And many folks do not have an alternative strategy. And, that's why we like to build those income allocation models. And for our clients to say, look, my risk portfolio didn't do too well. Can I come over and pull some money out of the safe portfolio? I still want to go on vacation. I still want to go down south, be a snowbird, and so on. And yeah, that's exactly why we put this plan in place for you.
Well, Chris, I know that although we never like to see the economy go down or the market have a downturn or a recession or a drawback, whatever you want to call it, we never love to see that. However, if we are working and saving and still have the reliability of our paycheck and our income to support the standard of living, and we are investing during those times, we continue to make those contributions, that's an inherent advantage. But when the table turns and the money changes directions, those downturns increase the risk exponentially to our ability to produce a stable, secure income and to be able to continue to produce that income for all those years to come. And that's why that book, Income Allocation, that's why that model of planning is really being used by advisors across the country to help their clients, to help savers and investors have a more confident retirement. This is kind of a retirement income planning strategy book and reference piece that really explains the risks that we face in retirement, longevity being one of the greatest ones, but how that multiplies all the other risks. And Income Allocation explains how to address those risks and structure the assets to be more confident, even through ups and downs in the market cycles.
Yeah, removing your emotional element out of your investing mindset is a very important piece for us. And, I'm just thinking because, I've sent out some emails to some folks who are, very emotionally attached to what's going on in the market, what's happening to their portfolio on a daily basis, and not having that long-term perspective, and probably doing damage to themselves over the long haul by, trying to time the market, pulling in and out. Well, I'm concerned going through the election cycle, for example, or, I just don't like the way, where this country is going politically, for example, and, either to the left or to the right, depending on the administrations here. You got to remove yourself from that and build a well-diversified, low-cost portfolio around your overall risk tolerance in something that you have some other alternatives in case, the market does do some things that are unanticipated. Companies cut dividends, for example. This crazy pandemic has certainly upset the apple cart. And I think inflation is something that people are going to have to start, taking much more seriously. It's been very almost non-existent by and large. And, that being said, in the United States, they don't include food or fuel because they're very volatile price-wise in the cost of the consumer price index. And, gasoline's near $3 a gallon right now. Food has certainly gone up. There are some shortages around the globe with the supply chain issues here. And so inflation's going to have a big impact. Your Social Security benefit, today probably isn't going to buy the same basket of goods it's going to buy in 10 years from now. So how are you going to make up the difference? Pull more money out of your portfolio to do that. And hopefully you have it well designed to, manage risk, take into account volatility, have the ability to pull off that portfolio, that withdrawal rate that is not 4% right now, not with US government bonds and corporate bonds paying much lower rates than 1994 when that theory came out.
Well, if you would like to structure that income plan, if you'd like to have an income allocation, if you would like to have a plan that addresses some of retirement's greatest risks, get your game plan for retirement put together, or double check your current game plan for retirement with Chris Mcintire. He makes the offer for anyone listening to the program. That's the value of being tuned in right now, is that you can take this information, the next step in your planning process, and design and implement a plan. No cost, no obligation. Just pick up the phone and give a call. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris does have that retirement planning strategy guidebook, Income Allocation. If you would like a copy of that, I'm certain that he can provide that. He's got the list of the 7 financial myths that I've mentioned a few times. These are commonly held misconceptions or misunderstandings about the financial world that a lot of people's plans are based on. And of course, your outcome's only as good as the assumptions that your plan makes. Maybe you want to consider some of these myths and misconceptions and examine your plan to make sure that you are not relying on any of them to hold true for you. So if you'd like Income Allocation, the list of the 7 myths, or if you'd like to get your specific game plan for retirement put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, you mentioned inflation. Aren't there ways that people can, in fact, structure into their plan the ability to increase their income throughout retirement to help to address and potentially offset the effects of inflation?
Oh, absolutely, Peter. It's one of the primary functions that we serve as, as advisors to help our clients, not lose that purchasing power, if you will. And, it's tough right now. Let's be honest, savings rates are minimal. CD rates are minimal. You've got to look at some other alternatives out there. And, we've been restructuring some portfolios because of this low interest rate environment and bond market risk if rates go up in the future, and using a number of different options we can use as an income play, for example, some real estate funds to deliver some income, some preferred stock pieces here, looking at what other alternatives are there to the common stock bond mutual fund type mentality. Because, what people out there listening today need to understand is, okay, if I'm going to retire, I'm going to be in the income business then. We're all going to be there at some point. I'm out of the investment business. I'm in the income business. And, what is my average monthly expenses? Times that by 12, times that by your income tax rate to find out what that annual gross income's what the annual income needs to be. And then subtract your Social Security income out of that, subtract your pension income if you're fortunate enough to have one, and that leaves you with that income gap, and then factor that income gap by about 3% in inflation to be safe. And factor in how much money does that mean I have to pull out of my portfolio, and then adjust that for inflation. And now you start to get your hands on this this math equation or algorithm, if you will.
Chris, I mean, literally, I think that the last 5 minutes, what you just went over, is what anyone considering retirement needs to run through for quick back of the napkin math of, am I ready to retire? And I know a lot of people say, well, I'm going to retire at 65, or, well, I need $1 million to be able to retire confidently. And neither one of those numbers is going to tell us if we're truly financially prepared to face what could be 25 to 35 years of unemployment and being in that income business, supporting ourselves, that we refer to and look forward to retirement. neither one of those numbers is really going to tell us if we are prepared. But that equation that you just went through, that mathematical formula, really is how we answer that question, am I ready to retire? And that's going to give us a much more confident answer doing that math than I think anything else, looking at our investment amount, our lump sum accumulation, projecting out hypothetical rates of return is going to give us as far as confidence.
Sure. And you don't want to go into this with a hope and a prayer, and many people do. I hope it's going to work out. Well, we're just praying that we make it through. And, you need some plans in place. There are some instruments we can utilize that have some contractual guarantees, that can help alleviate some of those concerns, that emotional element that is so common in the investment world today. Many people are glued to CNBC or Fox Business or Bloomberg Network, whatever your channel is, and what's going on at this particular moment. And there's really nothing you can do about it. So remove that element, understand where your real risk tolerance pain is, and develop a portfolio around that risk tolerance. Look at some alternatives. We haven't even talked about Roth conversions and where your large purchases are going to come from. Because if you got $1 million in a 401k and not much in a savings account, you got a tax issue here. If you want to spend $60,000 on a new SUV, for example,
got to pull 80 out of that account. That might not be what you were factoring in. And Chris, during that math equation on figuring out the income gap and therefore the lump sum to generate the cash flow, I heard you mention taxes. And then I just heard you talk about Roth conversions again. Now, this is a big, serious topic right now. A lot of people, rightfully so, if you're paying attention, if you're hearing the news and what they're talking about in Washington, they're talking about tax increases on multiple levels. And Chris, I know that you are a self-proclaimed tax geek a little bit, and that you work with a lot of your clients there at Mcintire Retirement Services to help to plan and strategize for the taxes into the future and help to identify strategies where possible to minimize and control those taxes.
Absolutely. Your legal obligation is to pay the least amount so that you get to keep more of your own efforts. And I think, we take an active role in helping clients do that by coordinating with some good quality CPAs in the area and, having a team together to say, hey, I got an idea, guys. I'm going to bounce this off one of my network associates, to see if we can slide some dollars out of your IRA into a Roth or into just a regular account, because of the tax bracket that you're in, and you combine that on, the legal side of things where, hey, your estate plan is as strong as the weakest link. You might have had the best rate of return on your 401k, but you forgot to name a beneficiary. Now it's going to probate and you're going to pay a bunch of taxes. So again, you're going to have a tax plan, an income plan, some sort of healthcare plan, which is typically Medicare for most folks, kind of a quasi-government plan there. But, your estate plan is going to also involve some sort of an attorney relationship as well, where you have powers of attorney for healthcare, finance, living wills, regular wills. Some of you are going to need a trust of some sort or another. So, somebody's got to be the quarterback in all of this. And, I think that's where our niche in the marketplace comes into play. Say, I'm going to run it by Chris. He can handle farming it out to who he needs to talk to, because they'll actually return his phone call.
The coordinator, you're bringing it all together there, Chris, and making sure that the game plan is in place for the winning strategy for your financial future. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get your game plan for retirement put together, or if you already have a plan, if you'd like to double check it to see if there are any strategies that could help you be more efficient, that could work better to help you achieve your goals in the future, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call. Again, this is the value of being tuned into this program on a weekly basis, or right now, is that you've got the opportunity to get your financial and retirement plan put together, a snapshot of where you are currently, a discussion of your goals, writing those down and documenting them, and then getting a qualified, experienced professional's opinion and recommendations on the steps that you should take what you should be doing with your money to make your money work harder to help you achieve those goals. And if that's what you would like, or if you've been thinking that you need to get that put together, pick up the phone, give a call, just an investment of your time, no cost, no obligation. Have that conversation with Chris Mcintire, the team at Mcintire Retirement Services, and get that plan put together. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, you mentioned Social Security. Obviously, we can't really have a conversation about retirement income without mentioning and including Social Security. One of the things that you help people with in that process of planning that game plan for retirement is a Social Security report and analysis, figuring out when an optimal time to claim and collect or coordinate the Social Security benefits might be. And you have seen many times and talked about on the program where that alone can make a difference of several hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially over the lifetime of a couple.
Sure. By taking it early, you're getting the least amount. By taking it at age 70, you're getting the maximum amount. And if you're married, one might take it early, one might take it later. And, there are benefits to both of those. And, it's never a clear cut, you have to do this or everything is going to fall apart. Life is what happens to plans. I've had many clients say, should I take Social Security at 62? And, and a lot of times I'll say, look, let's hold off on that. Let's pull some money out of the portfolio right now. If the market conditions are favorable, it's supporting that. And then if we get a pretty significant market correction or something like that, then we may say, look, let's turn on the Social Security now. It'll take some pressure off the portfolio, and over the long haul, the portfolio will certainly adjust. So you have to have some flexibility because, nobody can always predict exactly what the future is going to be.
Chris, with the Social Security, you take it early, you get less. You take it late, you get more. That's simplified to a great extent because there's a lot of strategies that can go in there, and you've got to factor in all of those additional life implications that you mentioned there. But again, I think that alone is worth the time in getting the report and analysis. And then in addition to that, the tax planning and strategizing that you can help people do, run the reports and analysis there to sort of optimize the tax situation for the retirement accounts. That also can potentially make a swing in some cases of several hundreds of thousands of dollars. These two factors alone really could add up to having a much more confident retirement outlook and future.
Sure. Yeah. And, with our planning software with Social Security, you can show people in real time and say, here's what would happen at 62, here's 63, 64, 65, and show it to them in real time. Because when you walk into the Social Security office, it is not their job to analyze all the options you have and whatnot. It's to get your application filed. And, you need to do your homework ahead of time. Hey, they got less people working there than ever before. They have, budget constraints and everything, and dealing with all of this in a global pandemic, they're certainly have more than enough to do. So you need to do your homework ahead of time so you know exactly what you're going to do when you walk in there, or if you're going to file electronically, that you have done that. And, for those of you that don't want to do that, we have a network partner that would do it for you. They'll file your benefits for you.
Well, I like the fact that you're talking about this coordinated effort, Chris. And I think when we started the program talking about these two extreme ends of the risk spectrum based on how long we're around and we need our money to last, or what kind of situation it would leave our loved ones in if we did pass away. Those are things that we can address in planning. Those are risks that we can actually insure against. But the rest of the financial picture, the rest of the planning does need that coordination that you're speaking of. It needs to be looked at from a legal perspective, from a tax perspective, from a financial perspective, obviously. And within each one of those categories, kind of subcategories there. But that's where you and your team there at Mcintire Retirement Services can help coordinate and identify where other services, where other professional or where other products or strategies may be needed.
Certainly. Yep. And, we bring a team with us. We have, the ability to help you solve a lot of your problems. And a lot of times we might have to reach out to a network associate and, hey, it's nice to have those abilities and that coordination of efforts for your behalf. And, whether or not you want to be very charitable and include a lot of charities in there, there's some certain tax advantages to that. We can go through, donor advised funds, charitable remainder trusts, and all of those elements also.
Well, I know Kiplinger recently had an article, "You are not ready to retire until you can answer these 7 questions." And Chris, a lot of them were kind of mental and emotional. How much can I continue to put up with work? What will I do in retirement? Where will I live? But the biggest questions: do I have enough money to last? How will I pay for healthcare? What will I do in retirement? What are my current liabilities, and will they go away once I retire? These are the ones. And hold on. What are my current liabilities, and will they go away once I retire? Am I maximizing Social Security and other retirement income sources? These are the ones that, through that planning and strategy session, at least we can help people answer those. What will they do when they retire? Are they wanting to completely quit work? Do they have anything left in the tank? Those are personal decisions, but having a plan and having confidence in the financial side of things certainly is going to help us feel better about making those decisions.
It certainly is. And, are you ready to be with your spouse 24/7?
Retirement's not for everybody, Chris.
Yep, you're exactly right. And, it's an adjustment, obviously. We've had a lot of folks say, look, we spent 40 hours a week apart doing other things, and now we are together. It's an adjustment, it certainly is. You still need, everybody likes to have their own space.
Well, we got a little bit of a taste of that, I think, during the COVID quarantines, and a lot of people said, hey, I actually kind of like this quality of life. And because of that, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to retire maybe a little sooner than their plans once were. And if you fall into that category, or if you just want to make the most of every opportunity that you have to save and make your money work for you in the efforts to grow toward retirement, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, request the opportunity for that game plan for retirement. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris, we always appreciate your time, and thank you for being the resource for Northwestern Ohio savers and investors.
Oh, Peter, it's a pleasure to be with everybody. I hope you enjoyed your show this weekend. Stay safe out there, folks. Thank you for listening.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.